Hey guys, Matthew here, and welcome to episode number 8 of the Abusing Harvest series. This is also going to be a fairly cheap-ish kind of craft in the, smaller range of, let's say, under 10 exalt craft. And we are going to be making some cast on crit gloves, perfect for especially CI cast on crit, which is a very popular build at the moment. I've made well over 100 exalt off of these gloves. But I could have made a lot more if I wasn't going for perfect every time. But anyways, let's get into the craft. So the first part of the craft is going to be to get yourself a pair of gloves that look something like this, which are temple gloves that are a hybrid of cold resistance alongside increased damage with hits against shield enemies. Now the important part about these gloves is to get them at level 85, and they are very, very hard to get. So what you could do is just buy them. These are going to net you about 3 to 4x, maybe 5x, and they're going to look something like this. They already have 3 white sockets. It's the same base that everybody's using. 3 white sockets, 28% quality, and it's already divine to nearly perfect, as you can see, 50 and 47. So it is a very, very nice divine, and you can use those. Just fine to get going. So now if you plan on making multiple pairs of these gloves, you're going to want to dupe them. I've shown how to dupe items in many of the videos of this series because it's a very important thing to learn. But essentially you're going to want to use a Chrysic Kimmerl. Chrysic Kimmerl is basically like a save state for your item. Then you can regal it. Once it's regal, it's going to have 2 mods, and then you can split it. There's a 50% chance that the item that drops on the ground is going to be a successful dupe, and there's a 50% chance that the item that drops on the ground is going to be the random mod. In this case, it's considered a failure. All you have to do is regal it and then split it again. So these split beasts are about 1.4 to 1.5x, and the imprint is about 0.5x. So on average, it should cost you about 3.5x to make yourself a copy. But the first ones you'll probably have to pay 4 to 5x because people are trying to make a bit of profit when selling them to people who don't have them already. So once you have the base and you've duped it, you've got yourself a successful base that you could start crafting on. So there's nothing special here. You don't have to re-imprint it for safety measures because no matter what you regal, if you happen to hit something that you can't get rid of, all you'll have to do is do a non-cold to cold, and that will change whatever mod that you just regaled into cold damage to attacks, which you can remove by doing a remove attack modifier as well. So let's go ahead and look at these gloves, and let's say that, for example, I would have regaled these, and I would have gotten, say, lightning resistance. So once you got lightning resistance, the next part is so long as you have something that you can remove using the league mechanic, such as lightning resistance, fire resistance, chaos, life, anything you can remove with the league mechanic, you're basically good to go. If you have something that you can't remove with the league mechanic, again, and you're going to have to do non-cold to cold, get yourself some flat cold damage to attacks, and then you're ready to go, because once you have that, you can remove it, and you're done. The idea here is that you want this this increased damage with hits against shield enemies by itself. You don't want anything else on the gloves to get going. Now, the second step is going to be taking care of the energy shield. So if you look at these gloves here, which are gloves and with the tag intelligence, you'll see that if I look for defense, there is only prefixes. So I don't need to have full suffixes. I don't need to have anything like that because there's only prefixes available on these gloves. As soon as I have just the cold mod by itself, I can actually go right into working on the defense part of the gloves. So how you're going to do that? Well, first off, what you're going to do is imagine that right now I don't have the hybrid defense mod. I would go ahead and craft a hybrid defense mod, which is going to act as a block. And this hybrid is basically energy shield and life. So by crafting this, which is this mod here, I'm removing these 4 different mod pools from rolling when I go and augment a defense modifier. So I'll be guaranteed to get either one of these 3, and this one won't happen. So whatever I happen to to augment with the defense augment, such as, for example, in this case, I got hybrid energy shield and stun and block recovery, I would go ahead and remove my my bench mod, because if you do remove defense, add defense, there is a chance that you're going to hit that mod, which is not something you want to do. The next part is that you're going to want to re-roll the defense mod. So remove a random defense modifier, add a new defense modifier, and you're going to want to do that until you get either tier 1 or tier 2 flat energy shield, which is either pulsing or seething, or T2% or T1% energy shield, which is indomitable or unassailable. Once you've got one of these two things, you're going to go ahead and recraft that bench mod that I told you guys about, the hybrid energy shield and life, because you've got no other prefixes whatsoever. You'll go ahead and craft the hybrid, and then you will augment a new defense modifier. So by doing so, let's say I have this flat here, right? Let's say I had seething, and then I block off the hybrid life and energy shield. I am guaranteed to get either a percent roll or a hybrid percent roll. If I get a hybrid percent roll, unfortunately I need to remove my craft and then remove a random defense modifier in hopes of hitting the percent instead of the flat, and then I can re-put my craft on the gloves and again re-augment a new defense modifier in hopes of getting a decent percentage. Now I would accept for these gloves anything that is double T2. So I wouldn't really take like radiating, and I really wouldn't probably also wouldn't take, say, dauntless. That being said, if I had dauntless alongside seething, that could work. That being said, having radiating alongside unassailable will not work. That will give you very small amount of energy shield, but the opposite will work, because flat energy shield is very, very strong. If you look at these gloves without any energy shield crafted on them, they have 55, meaning if you get seething, you're almost instantly doubling that. You're getting all the way up to over 100 just from the flat itself. So by going over to 100, even if you get, let's say, T3, that will net you over 170 energy shield, which is pretty decent for these gloves. I personally aim for 170 myself, which is why I'm saying dauntless with seething will work, but the opposite won't work. So radiating will only give your gloves to about 80, and then T1 won't quite reach the desired threshold unless it's very, very well defined, at which case it would actually kind of work. So yeah, either 2T2 or 1T1 and 1T3 is what I would personally accept. And also priority towards the flat, of course. So once you have that, you're going to end up with a pair of gloves that is going to look something like this, such as here I have Seething alongside Indomitable, which is 195 energy shield. Now you won't have the unnerve and you won't have the attack mod either, but that is going to be very easy to do. So the next thing you're going to want to do after you have this pair of gloves and the defense modifiers that you care about, you would basically have two defense modifier prefixes alongside your cold resistance and either one or no suffixes. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to fill up the suffixes. So you could go ahead and easily, let's say you had these gloves and you had regaled the lightning resistance, all you would have to do at this point is craft on a suffix. By crafting on a suffix, no matter what it is, there is no open suffixes left on the gloves. Therefore, you can only slam a prefix, which I'm going to get into in a second. That being said, if you didn't have a suffix because you regaled a prefix and you ended up removing it with a Lee mechanic, the next thing you're going to want to do is basically craft on any given prefix to block those. So let's say you had the 2 energy shield rolls and then just the cold modifier, nothing else on the gloves. You're going to want to craft on a prefix to make sure that if you augment something, it is guaranteed to be a suffix. So that could be anything. You could put on, say, percent life or flat life or something. It doesn't really matter. And then you would augment either a cold or lightning modifier. By augmenting a cold modifier, you're guaranteed to get cold resistance because you can't get flat cold because obviously it's blocked by the fact that there's 3 prefixes. And same thing for lightning. Oh, I said cold, I meant fire. You can't get cold because there's already cold on the gloves. So lightning and fire are the same thing. You're guaranteed to get them. So you would augment a random lightning or cold fire modifier to make sure that you can instead change your prefix craft to a suffix craft, and in which case then you would actually end up with 3 suffixes and 2 prefixes, which is what you need because when you go and slam on the unnerve, you want to have nothing else available. So an interesting thing about these gloves is that you want the unnerve, and that is the only thing you care about. So when you go ahead and slam the Hunter Exalt prefix, most of the time you're going to get an attack modifier. As you can see, this has a weighting of 1,000, 250, and 250 are all attack modifiers. So by slamming on the Hunter Exalt, if you get any of these, Intimidate, Strikes, or Impale, you can simply remove an attack modifier because there is no other attack modifiers at all on your gloves. Absolutely none. So by removing it, then you're going to open up your prefix slot, which in this case, you can actually just augment a new caster modifier. And if you have no open suffixes, which you shouldn't, you can't roll this damage over time multiplier here. So the only thing that you can get is your unnerved. It is guaranteed if you augment a caster prefix that you get unnerved, at which point your gloves are almost done already. That being said, if you get the one very unlucky thing that you can get is the increased duration of elements, because as you can see, it has no tag. So what you're going to want to do at this point, which kind of sucks, is remove a random influence modifier. Because there's no other influence modifier, the only thing it's going to be able to hit is the duration. Now that is the most expensive thing, because remove attack is like 30 chaos, while remove a influence modifier is like 100 chaos to an exalt. But then you can augment the caster modifier, which is very cheap, 30-40C, and you've got yourself your unnerve. How you're going to finish the gloves afterwards is you're going to have to remove that one bad craft that you augmented on. So for example, if you augmented fire resistance, you're going to have to remove a random fire resistance or a random lightning resistance, whatever it is, because at that point you want to make sure to have no other suffixes except for the cold damage and increased damage against shield enemies. So nothing else. The reason for that is because we want to block something. So what we want to do is we want to craft attack speed on the gloves. So by crafting on attack speed, you'll see that attack speed has the attack and the speed tag. What we're interested in is the attack tag, because what we want is accuracy. So if we block on the attack speed, you'll see that there's almost 100% chance of actually getting accuracy when we go and augment a new attack modifier, because accuracy holds up for 5,600 weighting versus life gain, which is only 1,000, and then there's also the suffix hunter, which is 500. So you're almost guaranteed to get accuracy. Now, of course, you're not guaranteed to get a good roll of accuracy, meaning if you augment a attack modifier and you get, say, of the sniper, that's not good. At which case, you would remove the attack speed by removing the bench mod, and then you would do remove attack modifier, add a new attack modifier until you get either tier 1 or tier 2 accuracy. That is personally what I've been keeping myself on my own gloves. So if I go ahead and show you some of the gloves I've crafted, there's some here, tier 1 accuracy, 195 ES, alongside the unnerve. And the last thing you'll do once you've got your amount of accuracy that you care for, which is tier 1 or tier 2, you'll go ahead and craft on the last thing on the gloves, which is going to be this mod here, chance to avoid elemental ailments. It's a 1 in 5 to get it perfect, so I would advise get it to a perfect 25. It just looks better and it's going to sell better. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is basically divine. So you're not going to want to divine your suffixes because the cold res and increased damage against shield enemies is almost perfect already. So we really don't want to touch that. Now the thing about accuracy, it has insanely big ranges. So what you can do is just target divine the attack modifier until you get a decent roll. So for example here, I would probably accept like 450, and here it doesn't really matter because it's already over 450. But now the next thing you're going to want to divine is your prefixes, because you do want to get some really good amount of energy shield. Such as here I have 195, here I have 174, which is because I have T2, T2, despite the fact it's almost perfectly divined. But like I said, 170 is personally my threshold of what I aim for. So what you'll want to do to divine this energy shield much easier is using the divine lucky prefix. So it's actually the actual roll for that mod is re-roll the values of a prefix modifiers on a magic or rare item with lucky modifiers. These go for about 30 chaos each, but they are basically target divines for only prefixes, meaning your accuracy and your cold damage hybrid are going to be safe. The only thing that is going to be hit by the divining is going to be your prefix energy shield, at which point you aim for about 170 energy shield. The unnerve itself doesn't matter, 7%, 10% doesn't matter. And then you would have yourself a sellable pair of gloves. Now, the entire process of this, if you buy the base initially, you're spending 5x. Then you regal it. That's like whatever. You do non-cold to cold, you remove the attack, or if you have anything else, you can just keep it. Taking care of the prefixes is probably going to cost around 3 to 4 exalts, depending how lucky or unlucky you are if you're going for T2, T2. Now, if you're going for T1, T1, or even a single T1, expect it to be very expensive. But if you're going for T2, T2, it's not all that bad. Probably about, like I said, 3, 4, 5x, depending on your luck. Then getting the unnerve is 2 exalts, because that's about the price of the Hunter exalt. And then you can remove attack, add caster. That's about 60 chaos. And then you augment attack, reroll the attack maybe 4 or 5 times. That's about 1 exalt. And you've got yourself a 30 exalt pair of gloves, which only costs you maybe 10 to 15x, depending on your luck. Actually, a little bit more than that. It's actually 15 to 18x, depending on your luck, which I would consider pretty damn good return of investment. And of course, if you're somebody who's playing CI cast on crit, which is very popular right now, these are basically perfect gloves for you. So that's about all I had for this video. Now, as always, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters: Gaikona, Kfish, Zachary, Luro, Scott, Dr. Radu, Cassicus, Francesco, Amazos, Skorov, Mr. Coffee, Mario, and Jungle Dog, as well as anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous. Huge thanks to all my supporters, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.